on top of the timing charts for the first practice session, which featured a lot of attention around young Kimi Antonelli at Mercedes. His debut did not last very long, Karun Chandok. He's been back out on the track. He's qualified okay for the F2. Now it's about the race weekend. We might hear a bit more about that young Italian during the rest of this weekend.
We might do, but it certainly wasn't the way he wanted his first official session to go. So it's such a shame for him. You know, there's such a weight of expectations, and there really was this hunger to see him, not just from all of us to find. We've heard the name, haven't we? These private tests behind closed doors, and this was our first chance to see him on track. But there was a real hunger from the Italian fans here on home ground, here to cheer on for a while. And unfortunately, it hasn't quite worked out so far.
Lando, we can be world champions as a young member of the Tifosi. So Ferrari, have they given up on the world championship this year? It's all about McLaren, maybe, and Red Bull too. I thought what was interesting in the press conference yesterday, Lando Norris trying to play down the championship challenge. Sergio Perez, meanwhile, saying, no, they're very much with the momentum right in the thick of it currently. But at Red Bull, we've rather lost our way. We've identified why we've lost our way, and good things will be coming back to us very soon, maybe this weekend. George Russell will be hoping to get back into the car that ended up in the barriers at the Parabolica. That was the car that Andrea Kimi Antonelli was driving in for the FP1 session. And there is the Drivers' Championship. 70 points between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Now, my maths isn't brilliant, but I think if Lando wins every single race and takes the fastest lap, and Max finishes second, Lando wins the title by points by the time we get to Abu Dhabi. So it's kind of in his hands, but it's a big ask, isn't it?
It'll be, it's a tall order, isn't it? You know, you're talking, what are we, nine weekends to go, including this one, isn't it? So yeah, 9 8 or 72. So we would win by 2 points probably. You were nearly right.
I told you my maths was rubbish.
Nearly there.
That's why you had to check it. But yeah, that's
why I'm here.
Yeah, and I think, look, I think he needs to play down and just take it race by race by race, play down the expectations, and then see where we are in Austin and Mexico and Brazil, whether he's still in the hunt or not.
Yeah, as we said before, he needs a couple of non-finishes from the Max camp. Doesn't need to bring himself really into play to go on a winning run of 9 in a row. I mean, obviously it's been done. Max has done it, Seb has done it, but it'll be a tall order.
This time last year, Max was winning for the 10th consecutive race here in Red Bull, for the 15th consecutive race. That's Valtteri Bottas. A lot of attention on him this weekend, because I think he's forced himself back into the reckoning to keep the seat that he's sat in at the moment for Sauber for next year. And there's George Russell, Ted Kravitz, not looking like he's ready to get in his car just yet.
Hello, Crofty. Hello, Karun, everybody from the pit lane. Yes, it's absolutely scorching. Where is George Russell? He's standing in the middle of the garage. But yeah, it's 34 degrees here at the moment. You could fry some pancetta on this pit lane surface. Actually, you can't, because it's white and so it reflects. But if I'd done it on the lovely dark new tarmac there, I'm sure you could fry an uovo, as they call them in Italian, or is it an uvo? Anyway, it's very hot, and that means it's been very hard and hot work for all the mechanics and their Mercedes black t-shirts in the garage. It's much hotter than 34 degrees in there, even though it's in the shade, and they have had to cancel lunch and every other bit of leave that they had, because it's been all hands to the pump here to get this car turned round in what I think is going to be about 6 or 7 minutes. They're just putting the finishing touches. You can see the setup and calibration rig is still on the front axle and the rear, and they're just doing the measurements at the back. So that always signals that they've done rebuilding it. They just have to make sure it's legal. They don't fall into any kind of Williams style, it turns out that the diffuser's too wide or whatever positions. So yeah, not too long to go until George, who you saw there keeping his cool, can get out on track.
They need him out on the track as well. They were back-to-backing on various setup options and floor options, and lost that opportunity with one car crashing after just 10 minutes. Here's Charles Leclerc, back-to-back third places for Charles Leclerc, who I thought was one of the standout drivers, I have to say, especially with his first stint in Zandvoort last week.
He and Lando really were the two standouts at Zandvoort. When they see waves of the Tifosi, they're heading out of the first chicane. You know, I thought frankly, the whole race, Coffee. You know, the defence against Oscar Piastri there was absolutely brilliant. But it's funny, he said to me on Thursday morning when we were chatting about Zandvoort, he said, I knew that if I could hold Oscar off for 5 laps, he would overheat his front tyres. And I just needed to do everything I could to hang on for those 5 laps, and then I had it under control. And he said one thing that he and this man, Brian Botzi, really focused on was turns 11, 12, 13, 14 in Zandvoort.
The chicane and the final corner.
Just to make sure that they were really good at getting an exit from there, and then they wouldn't be overtaken. And it worked. And yeah, it was a super drive. Absolutely top quality drive.
From a man who has won here at Monza to a man who will be hoping that he can get some points maybe at Monza. Franco Colapinto, new driver for Williams. Logan Sargent has been replaced by this young Argentine, and there have been a lot of TV crews camped outside the Williams motorhome so far this weekend, and a lot of attention, whatever this young man does, on his exploits.
Oh yeah, I mean, they paid more attention than you do to breakfast coffee. It's been amazing.
10 minutes I spent for breakfast today. You were there longer.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's not just Argentina, right? It's the whole South American continent. There isn't a Brazilian on the grid anymore. We haven't got any drivers from the continent, and I think therefore it's created this wave of interest down there, which is brilliant. You know, we've got a long history of drivers from that part of the world in the sport, and it's nice to have one back.
Yeah, a lot of shall we say dollars coming Williams' way as well. A couple of new sponsors have been announced already since his announcement in the seat for the rest of this season, and just for the rest of the season, of course, because Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon will be teammates at Williams for next year. So medium tyres for everybody out on the track. Currently, we'll see the soft tyres when they go for their qualifying simulations a little bit later. Colapinto crosses the line and third fastest ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, who is running the full package upgrade for the RB this weekend. They worked very, very hard to get that package ready, but there's only one of them because he's got more points than Daniel Ricciardo. He gets it this weekend, and Daniel Ricciardo will take over with a new upgrade for Baku next time out.
Home race for them, of course, and the only track where that team has won twice, actually. Well, won anywhere, but they happen to have won here twice at home, which is a very unique stat. But
how weird would it be if they won here as RB, having won here as Toro Rosso and won here as Alpha Tauri?
I know.
Same team, 3 different names, 3 wins, and that's it. Hamilton going quickest with a 1:21.6.
Yeah, amazing. I was just looking at the track then, Coffee. It's down 9 degrees from earlier today, and it's what are we now? An hour later than when qualifying will be tomorrow. So it is a bit cooler than when qualifying will be running. But the track will clean up so much more by then.
So the question has to be asked: why are we running this practice session at a time when we won't be racing and we won't be qualifying?
It's a really good question, which I can't answer, because I have to admit, when I looked at the schedule last night and realized practice was at 1:30.
Oh dear.
Ooh, it was all a bit messy, wasn't it? That Aston was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
The McLaren, I think Lando was trying to get out of the way of the Sauber, and it all got a bit messy there.
Yeah. Valtteri Bottas in the Sauber, Lando Norris in the McLaren, Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. Kevin Magnussen, by the way, in the Haas team fined €7,500 for impeding during the course of FP1. Hold on to your thoughts for 2 seconds. I want to bring Bradley Lord in, Director of Communications at Mercedes. He is our expert in the garage, not even on the pit wall this weekend. Brad, is very nice to talk to you. Right, big rebuild. I always call you Brad. Come on.
Thank you, Grumpy.
Big rebuild over the course of the lunchtime. What needed replacing after the accident?
Quite a lot. We had to, standard practice anyway, you quarantine all the bits so they don't go back on the car after a big impact like that. So the guys have done a mega job to rebuild, and they're just putting the finishing touches to it. Cake tins going on, and hopefully George will be out in the next 5 to 10 minutes is the plan. But yeah, big job.
And Bradley, I was watching the F2 qualifying. Kimi did a solid job there to get himself into contention. How's he feeling? Was he presumably fairly apologetic when he came back to the pit garage?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He went straight round and, you know, apologised to the mechanics for the extra work. Spoke to George as well and did the same. So yeah, I mean, you know, obviously kicking himself and just frustrated at having missed out on the opportunity of getting the full hour in, and yeah, just having pushed a little bit too hard, a bit too soon.
So tell us, this weekend, after what was a disappointing Zandvoort, given what you'd done in the previous 3 races, or 4 races, are you back to being a bit nearer the front end or not?
We hope so, yeah. I mean, we did a load of work in the factory. We think we understand what was not quite gelling in Zandvoort. We're still doing the compares on the new spec, old spec floor to make sure we can rule that out and eliminate that as well. So, yeah, we hope we're going to be back a bit more at the sharp end, but, you know, time will tell when everyone turns it up and takes the fuel out. So we don't know quite yet.
Thank you, Mr. Lord. We'll be back with you in a little while. I've known Bradley Lord for many, many years. We have to do sensible chats on air now. Lando Norris, 1:21.6. Goes faster than Lewis Hamilton by about 300ths of a second. These are race simulations, but not full of fuel at this moment, would you think?
Yeah, I don't think it'd be necessarily a race simulation, because 21.6 is comparable to what we saw in FP1. So I think these are what we call balance check, probably, because they would have got a load of data from FP1 on the new track surface, on the curbs, and they would have had a chance to change the car. The track would have cleaned up, because since they ran, we've had F3 qualifying and F2 qualifying on track, so the asphalt would have just gotten a bit cleaner and a bit grippier. And this run is really to set a baseline and see where they change the car from now.
Let's see how clean this track is, because the last time I looked at it, at the end of qualifying for F2, there was gravel absolutely everywhere. And is this Max Verstappen going for a second warm-up?
I think he's going double cool.
Yeah, okay.
I think he might be doing double cool. One thing I have just noticed is Colapinto has done a good job so far in this run, only 100th behind Alex Albon. So that's a pretty solid effort, a very good effort, frankly, on this first run of FP2.
Well, let's see what it looked like from trackside as well. Martin Brundle's been watching that. Martin, good afternoon.
Hello, Crofty. Yeah, just watching an Alpine bump its way back on the track, and it's actually the first car I've seen since I've been down here that's made a mistake and gone over the sort of get out of jail free card in the middle, and there's another one about to join that, and the Haas of Kevin Magnussen as well kicks up the dust, that little bit of gravel to dissuade them. We saw the shenanigans you did of cars going straight on. So first chicane, reprofile, much smoother, curbs changed. Now the curbs are lowered here a long time ago, because there was a horrible sports car accident where they get launched off the first curb and end up having a big shutdown here and getting involved with other cars who've already navigated their way around the chicane. We've got a little bit of that back. The only driver I saw this morning trying out that first curve was Lewis Hamilton. Whether they want to try and take it, we'll wait for a car to come along shortly, whether they want to try to take that. And another lock-up. He does make the corner this. That's Colapinto, who does make the corner this time with a big lock-up. You wait so long down the pit straight before you hit the brakes. So what we're seeing here is a little bit of everything on low downforce settings. You need good braking. Downshift kind of looks after itself, it's almost subconscious. Then you need turn in, where the Sauber is slowly now, but handy. Then you need direction change. Then you need traction. You need rear grip on the way out of the corner. So you're looking for a little bit of everything, as I say, with the low wings. The Ferrari, nice enough through there. You could often see all the clever kinematics, geometry they have in the suspension to help the car tip in and control the roll and control the ride height of the car. Sometimes you can see it sort of fighting itself a bit on this second left-hander part. You can see the car bouncing around a little bit. Here's Max Verstappen, World Championship leader. Car changes direction nicely. A little bit of understeer. Sonoda and Albon coming through here as well now. A little bit of understeer there for Max. We saw the car just push at the front on the apex, and then 100% traction. I didn't hear any wheel spin at all as Max floored it and just kept pulling the upshifts coming out of here. So again, you want everything, and you've only just started the lap here. We'll just watch Leclerc through here. when he rocks up, as we see Mattia Binotto, the former team principal at Ferrari, on the TV. And he's coming through very slowly indeed, actually, is Charles Leclerc. Good chance to have a look at the Ferrari. But here we go. Alpine. Yeah, it's quite interesting to see the cars sort of moving and bouncing around within their sort of wheelbase as Carlos Sainz gets a great big chair. Back to you, Crofty. We're going to move around the track.
Thanks, Martin. I think we just might come to you a few minutes too late there, because the drivers were finishing off their initial runs here, and I don't think it will be long before we see some soft tyre runs. And Daniel Ricciardo's already been out on the soft tyres with a 1:21.8 to do his first, I would imagine, qualifying simulation, because as I said, the soft tyre wasn't used in the race at all last year.
It's a bit weird. He went out and then came back into the pits. It seems like he did a drive through the pit lane and has gone back out again, so slightly unconventional, unplanned there. Sainz has gone to the top of the times, Crofty, as you said, but 3.5 tenths to Max Verstappen. I did see on the speed traps he's 6 kilometers an hour faster than the Red Bull, so either Ferrari have genuinely got a very low drag car here, or maybe it could be a bit of engine mode, and they've turned the engines up a bit more than Red Bull have.
Here's his teammate Charles Leclerc, not going as fast, I think, preparing for a lap here. Don't forget, last year Carlos Sainz on pole in this race, and a great scrap with Charles Leclerc towards the ends of the race. Let's ride around 3.5 miles with Leclerc, shall we?
Yeah, you can see, just watching his head there, they seem to have a bit of control over the bouncing, isn't it? They haven't seen much of that today, which is a bit deep into that first chicane. The rear of the car came loose as he did the first apex there, but got it settled for the left-hander, and now comfortably flat through the curve. A grande goes past Pierre Gasly, his good friend, on the left. 200s down on Sainz. Second chicane, just an under rotation, it seems, on the front, but got the nose into that first apex well, so that was perfectly done. The first Lesmo, always some understeer there, and then you always get this sort of snap of oversteer as you come out of Lesmo too. But that Ferrari looks very well balanced. You have to say, at this point, Albon's gone fifth fastest on the medium tyre. Leclerc underneath the banking, and he is up. As I said, the balance really looked good. He was a little bit deep into Ascari as well. Didn't quite get that first apex as well as I think he would have liked. From the run down now to Parabolica, how late do you dare brake? How early do you dare to come off the brake pedal and run the speed through the apex slightly wide off the white line? But that's not a problem, because you can carry a bit more minimum apex speed. Take the shortest distance to the timing line, and it does take him to the top of the times. The Ferrari working well so far.
Nice lap indeed from Charles Leclerc. Gets a ripple of applause from the Tifosi in the grandstands as 1:21. He's 1.5 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz. Lando Norris about half a second back. Two drivers haven't been out yet, George Russell and Sergio Perez. We'll send Ted down to Rebel, see what's wrong. Yeah, we were riding on board with Charles Leclerc. We didn't quite see the bit from the forward-facing camera where he dipped a wheel into the dirt there. So Ferrari 1 and 2, and if it stays like that between now and the checkered flag, the fans here will go home very happy indeed.
Well, in the old days, it used to be a thing, isn't it? Ferrari on pole used to put an extra 30,000 on the gate for Sunday morning, but nowadays it's sold out in advance, so don't have that option.
Clay Regazzoni in 1971, Stefan Johansson in 1985.
Okay.
Two drivers that did what?
Raced for Ferrari
at
Monza on this day.
Their birthday.
Oh, their birthdays.
Yeah. To be joined by Carlos Sainz. Come on, I just thought I'd chuck in a really tricky, nasty trivia question for you there. Yeah, race day. Carlos Sainz's 30th birthday. He is the third driver in Ferrari history to race here on their birthday, and hoping to go a little better than Clay, who DNF'd, and Stefan, who came fifth.
I mean, if he could repeat last year's result and stand on the podium, that'll be a nice little party, wouldn't it?
He will join Jean Alesi and James Hunt as the only drivers to have won in the World Championship on their birthdays. Here goes Carlos Sainz again, and do you know what? I don't think there will be a dry eye in the park if Carlos Sainz, on his birthday, in his final Italian Grand Prix for Ferrari, gets on the top step of the podium. That could be the most popular win ever around here.
There definitely wasn't a dry eye when Jean Alesi won on his birthday, I can tell you, because he actually talked about it, saying every time he braked, his tears were hitting the visor on the last 3 or 4 laps at 1995 Canadian Grand Prix that he won. So Sainz still doing the work on the medium tyre, half second down, so this lap not going to necessarily challenge his teammates' time. But yeah, so far you'd have to say that the Ferrari, that upgrade package they've introduced, they've got to be pretty happy with it.
Introduced to stop the bouncing, basically. Which
and
has
unlock
come
performance.
back in since Spain, isn't it, really?
Yeah, but I think it's also just adding performance, isn't it? Good middle sector, matches Leclerc's time. So yeah, on the whole, it's been a pretty solid start. But let's see when we get the soft tyres on, because despite this track trophy having all these long straights and big braking zones, it's not easy for overtaking. Because following cars through the Parabolica is tricky, following cars through the Lesmos and Ascari is tricky. So you know, you do need to qualify well here.
You do, and you can get into a DRS trade very easily here as well. By the way, if you want to witness the fastest race ever, that could happen. But the clock has to stop before 1 hour, 14 minutes, 19 seconds, .838. I'm just wondering, I know there's a lot of time management these days, but with this newly resurfaced track, whether that might just give us a bit more speed. Last year, I know that we did stop the clock before that, but we were 2 laps shy because Yuki Tsunoda had his problem at the start. Lando Norris, get the feeling, is about to go for a qualifying lap here. He's looking to see who's around him, and that's Lance Stroll coming up behind him. Lando Norris, pole setter in Zandvoort last week, winner in Zandvoort last week, is going for a qualifying simulation. So a perfect time to ride on boards with the man who made a statement by winning by over 20 seconds last time out. Can they carry that form on here this week?
One of the things that the Mercedes engineers were saying is, because of this new surface being so closed up, we're not going to see a huge difference in compounds in terms of lap time performance gains. You know, we're used to seeing that sort of half-second delta. They were saying this to me this morning. They didn't think the gap would be so much. So we'll have a look, won't we? Because he's done a 21.6 on the medium tyre. And we'll see what this does for him on the soft. Hamilton and Piastri, Crofty, also on laps. Piastri going very fast. 3/10 quicker than Norris in just the first sector.
Yeah, and Piastri's just ahead of Norris on the track at the moment as we go through the Ascari chicane. Oscar Piastri is about halfway down the Retta Aposta. Right, on now towards that back straight. Lewis Hamilton on the main straight. Hamilton crosses the line and is about 0.05 of a second behind Charles Leclerc. Leclerc's time set on the medium compound. Piastri on the soft, didn't put in his best final sector, did enough in the first 2 sectors, but then by 7/1000 of a second is pipped by his teammate. Stroll slots in 6th fastest. Norris, Piastri 0.07 of a second between them, and the 2.5 tenths ahead of Charles Leclerc, which you would expect because Leclerc wasn't on the soft tyre. Hamilton was. He's 3 tenths down.
Yeah, so he's found about 4 tenths, Norris, hasn't he?
Yeah.
On the change of compound. Just looking at straight line speeds, 3:46 for Lando, 3:45 for Piastri. So that's a reference for us, isn't it? Hamilton on that lap was a 3:39. So Mercedes still running a bit slower.
There's no one out here, mate. Got no tow. Yeah, copy that.
So he might need to be trying to find the tow come qualifying on Saturday. Ted, meanwhile, has made his way speedily down to the Red Bull garage. Ted?
The tow, the slipstream, what is that, and when does it benefit the car, and when does it actually not be a benefit of the car, turn into dirty air? For the answer to that, Crofty,
I was going to say, I wish I knew. Maybe you can help me out.
Watch F1 Explained, the latest in our series, in qualifying tomorrow, unusually. Normally F1 Explained is in the race show, but unusually because the tow is of extreme usefulness, as Lewis Hamilton underlines there, in qualifying. It's in tomorrow's pre-qualifying programme. The tow explained. Now, Sergio Perez has his problems explained. His car was just being finished, actually, at the end of the lunch break. They had to put the laser scanner out just to make sure everything was okay and put together correctly. It was a gearbox change between sessions. So between FP1 and FP2, Red Bull said they had to make a precautionary gearbox change, so that was finished. And then Checo, he's done an outlap, hasn't he, in this session so far?
No, he hasn't been out at all.
He hasn't been out at all. Okay, I saw him. He was ready to go out when I last checked. Yeah, don't worry, don't you worry. Eyes in the back of my head, son. I'll be all right. Yeah, it's very unusual actually, because it looked like Checo was ready to go, and then it seemed that there was something else they needed to check. He got out of the car, and now he's got back in it, and now he's ready to go. So yeah, all looks okay after that gearbox change. By the way, have you noticed, I'm sure you have, the Red Bull rear wing?
It looks like someone's taken a bite either side of the pillar.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? Isn't it? It is. I haven't seen its like. So credit to Red Bull for coming up with it. It's essentially to dump drag, but still, because it's got quite an angle on it, to give Max and Checo some downforce in the corners. I would say it's more like a gerbil that only lives on
cornering is strong, just the flat losses are the lack of toe, maybe a little bit to be found in turn 1, 2.
Here's someone laughing in the background.
I don't think it was a laugh, it sounded like a bit of garage equipment.
I thought it was someone laughing, I must admit.
They wouldn't be laughing, I think that's maybe what Lewis's point is. Anyway, so yeah, the little sort of nibbled out bits from either side of the centre line of the Red Bull rear wing. Very nice. Let's have a look at it on the track. Max and Checo are out on track now.
What it is very, very different to any other rear wing that you're going to see.
And what I did see is, you know, Lewis and Bono, they're talking about a lack of toe. Neither McLaren had a slipstream either. Just, you know, when they were doing their laps, that was pure speed difference there of 7 kilometers an hour between Piastri and Hamilton there. Sorry, Norris and Hamilton. So, yeah, we'll see as the session unfolds. Now there are more cars on track. The Ferraris and Verstappen could and should benefit from some sort of slipstream.
I think Lando might have got a distant slipstream and a toe. But you know what it's like here. Fernando Alonso, you know, was penalised for impeding Felipe Massa once when he was half a straight. Well, yeah, but he was half a straight away, and the FIA proved on that day that you get affected by the turbulent wake even if you're a long way behind.
I'll tell you what, I'll let you go and have that conversation with Fernando. Even today, what are we now, 18 years later?
Yeah, to be fair,
it's still a thought subject.
It's not a conversation you want to have with Fernando. By the way, I saw.
I've got something moving around in my cockpit.
Okay, copy that. Whereabouts in the cockpit is it?
I think it's a nut, which is just going to my seat, so I think it's okay.
Yeah, you can contain that a little bit, but still a little bit uncomfortable. I saw Fernando Alonso in the gap between sessions, and a good hour after the session had finished, and he was still looking like it had been quite hard work in the cockpit, and his hair was still wet with sweat, shall we say. It's a very warm day today.
Even just standing outside is hot and sweaty enough. So, Valtteri Bottas on the lap here. So, just talking a little bit about Valtteri Bottas. He had a pretty good FP1.
He did.
To come back from what was a dreadful weekend for them last time. He's going to get this traffic into Parabolica, Colapinto in front of him. It's close enough that the turbulent air would have hurt Valtteri through the Parabolica,
but he's picked up a bit of a toe.
Yeah. So I think that's fine. So Norris is on a better lap, Profi. So the soft tyre is they're able to get 2 bites of the cherry on this. So he's on a second lap now. Not massively quicker, but marginally, and he's now going to get a tow from Magnussen to come across the line, and does improve by a 10.
So a 1:20.7 is the time to beat, and it was that final sector that gave Lando Norris that improvement. Here's Charles Leclerc, 10th of a bit down through the first couple of sectors. Sergio Perez is on track, and on the medium time slots into 12th fastest. Lewis Hamilton is there or thereabouts on his latest lap. He's getting a tow behind Lance Stroll currently down the back straight. Here comes Charles Leclerc into the Parabolica. We'll see where this lap stacks up as Daniel Ricciardo goes 7th fastest in the RB. Charles Leclerc stays 3rd fastest, 10th and a half off the 2 McLarens.
The RB's got unbelievable straight line speed. He did a 3:49 across the line as Lewis Hamilton goes to the top of the times with a 3:48. So Mercedes turning the engines up, I think, a little bit for that run. He's found a good chunk of speed, maybe a bit of a toe there. He had, was it Stroll in front of him, so maybe he did get a little bit of a slipstream as well. Sainz probably goes ahead of Leclerc into 3rd fastest. So the top 5 covered by just a 10th and a half, and we haven't yet seen what Red Bull can do. Oh, it's going very slowly. Very odd.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that necessarily unless Max feels that he's a bit out of place there for doing a lap.
He's done the first 2 sectors.
Yeah.
He did the first 2 sectors. He was, what was he, 2 tenths down on Hamilton's time and then aborted. Is this why we're going to see him abort? Last sector.
Into Parabolica we go. Oh, that's why.
Okay, it's what we saw in FP1, wasn't it? People struggling with...
On several occasions.
Yeah, snap of oversteer the apex, so that's why he's bailed out of that lap.
So mate, have Red Bull then, if that's happening there, have they gone a little bit too extreme on the low downforce rear wing? Do they need something a little bit more stable going through the Parabolica?
No, because he got through the Lesmos and he got through Ascari, which is, you know, Lesmo, I'd say Lesmo 2, and certainly Ascari is not far off the apex speed of Parabolica. So, yeah, we'll see. Carlo Pinto carrying on doing a good job.
Yeah, lowest in turn 1 now.
Yeah, could be late.
Seat's so hot, mate.
Okay, Roger.
Now, Lewis Hamilton was complaining about a hot seat at the end of FP1 as well.
It's going to be a very hot day on Sunday as well.
Yeah.
This could be an issue come the Grand Prix if they don't find a solution. But just to finish up, Carlo Pinto saying, good job, less than 2 tenths to Alex Albon. That's a very good effort for his first qualifying simulation in F1.
It certainly is, as we look at the analysis of turn 11, Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris. There's Bono, his race engineer. And I want to go trackside to Martin Brundle in a moment, but I fear that no one is really on a flying lap currently for him to enjoy.
I think George has gone straight into race prep. I think they've changed the run plan because he missed the first 22 minutes. And Marcus Dudley there, the man who is in charge of the race, in charge of the run plan for that car, the race engineer on the George Russell side of the pits. I wonder if they've changed their plans a little bit and they're going to use maybe FP3 to do the quali prep because the track will evolve.
My seat feels very hot.
Yeah, A film George gets the same reports from Lewis.
I'm going to say it's now becoming a bit of a pattern, this one. And it's not, I'm surprised more seats don't get too hot more often because the amount of gubbins, I think is the technical term, that is underneath the seats there, generating a huge amount of heat. Is George losing out too much by not doing a qualifying simulation today? Once again, it's in conditions that are going to be a bit cooler, and we'll see tomorrow for qualifying.
Maybe he'll do one later, just running out of sync.
Yeah.
But certainly doing 26.8 on the last lap.
Magnussen stops in the gravel. It's Magnussen in the gravel, and when, you can see he's gone in nose first there on the exit of the Lesmo corners. And what has happened here to Kevin Magnussen? We've got a red flag as well. Great to hear that Kevin Magnussen has said he's okay. He's gone quite deep into the barrier at a corner that you're taking about 100 miles an hour, just over 100 miles an hour, I'd say, for a practice session. Ryo Komatsu, the Haas team principal, I would imagine talking to his driver on the team radio as Kevin Magnussen clambers out of the car. Not surprised there's a red flag. That's going to take a little bit of extricating by the marshals. And let's have a look through and see what happens.
Yeah, he's come through the first Lesmo, about to turn in, and just lost the rear end on entry. The car was quite loose as soon as he turned the wheel. I don't know if he just had a bit more speed than the grip would allow this time. Obviously on the soft tyres, so pushing on, and slightly wide there. But as soon as you get in the dust, he was off. But seemed to just come around on him quite early on. But I think I was saying it before when we were riding on board coffee with someone, is Les Moto, you always get that sort of floaty feeling, that oversteery feeling. Kind of have to preempt it a bit, but this is the first Les Moto, always understeer through there. Then you come up, let's watch, as he turns in, even before the apex, the rear had come round. So, yeah, maybe just a bit too much speed in the way in.
What's the situation, Kev? I'm in the wall. Sorry. Copy.
€7,500 fine for the team for impeding an FP1 and FP2 ends for Kevin Magnussen in the barriers at the second Lesmo. This has not been his best day at a racetrack for a man that's still waiting to score his second points at Monza since he was 10th here on debut for McLaren back in 2014. We'll take no further part in this practice session. In terms of red flags, Karun, you probably couldn't have picked a better moment for the teams to have a red flag, because they're all coming in anyway to start on their race simulations. But there's one out there that has not got a qualifying run in other than George Russell, who we were talking about, and that's Max Verstappen. That incident at the Parabolica where he just felt it snap, caught it, and then aborted his run there, could prove quite costly for Max, because I don't think he's going to get the opportunity to get a qualifying simulation in.
You're right, but they'll have the information as a team, and he'll have the information in terms of the feeling. You know, I'm just looking at the sector times. As I said, he was about 2/10 down on Hamilton in the first two sectors. Piastri's the one who's done outstanding sector 1, but maybe he's taking too much out of the tyres because his sector 3 is not very good. So clearly they're all having to still do a little bit of a balancing act of attacking sector 1 versus keeping tyres for sector 3. But Max, so he was 2/10 off, which actually would have only put him 5th or 6th. So, you know, still you'd say slightly behind Mercedes and McLaren, maybe even Ferrari.
And obviously we don't know engine modes, we don't know fuel loads, we don't know who's trying to hide what necessarily on a Friday. How do you manage the tyres on a qualifying run when there are so few corners here at Monza?
So much of what you're looking for is grip on traction coming out of those two chicanes. You want the support and the grip from the rear end, so Max is struggling when you turn into quick corners like Les Moto, Ascari, Parabolica. Clearly, the apex of Parabolica, the way the wind is today, is tricky, and you need the rear support, so you need a tie grip. And if you've attacked sector 1 too hard and maybe been a bit aggressive with your right foot, accelerating out of it, put too much heat and energy, the tyres don't cool down. That is one of the symptoms of the Pirelli tyres, is if the temperatures shoot up at a corner, and we have Bridgestones or Michelin, for example, they would cool down quite quickly down straight, even on that lap. The Pirellis don't. They hold that temperature for a lot longer than the previous tyre suppliers we had in F1. And that's one of the challenges for drivers.
Thank you very much indeed. Track temperature 47 and a bit degrees, so nearly 48 degrees. And you were talking about the comparison between Albon and Colapinto. So there might be an indication of experience there as well, how Alex Albon might have managed his tyres better on his fastest lap, so he could get the benefit in sector 3 that Franco might go to the data and say, oh, okay, that's the secret, is it?
Yeah, and you know what? That's fair enough, because that was his first run on a set of soft tyres, and I think, first qualifying simulation. I know he ran the tyres earlier in FP1, but this is the time to take the fuel out and give him a little bit of a pulley push.
You remember Gaston Mazzacane?
I do. With all the Prost.
Yeah. Franco doesn't. He was born 2 years, well, raced 2 years before Franco was born. Still got a red flag here at Monza because of this incident. Kevin Magnussen, the second Lesmo corner, spinning around and ending up in the barriers. Bit too much speed carried into the corner, you believe, Karun Chandler?
Yeah, it's just, you know, the story of ambition over adhesion. You kind of throw it into that corner and hope the rear of the car's going to stick, and it didn't. Quite clearly, the grip wasn't there, and the barrier is not very far away from the edge of the track, unfortunately for him.
It's not, is it? And the gravel is not very far away from the edge of the track either. And I know we like gravel traps, but one of the things that you get by having the gravel so close is a lot of gravel coming back out onto the track again if someone has a brief moment off. And I've seen it quite a bit here today, actually, with a lot of gravel either side of the track.
Yeah, but we can't have everything, can we? And I much prefer having gravel there as a natural deterrent rather than have laps deleted for track limits afterwards. So I'm sure Kevin Magnussen would have probably hoped there wasn't a gravel trap there and loads of tarmac, but you know, it's the challenge of having gravel at the edge of the track is so much better for the sport.
No, I totally agree with you on that one. That's the view on board with Kevin Magnussen and Max Verstappen studying the data back in the garage. Verstappen, who had to abort his lap with a moment's parabolica, and he chose to back out of it and then do a couple of cool-down laps and then go again. And sadly, during that time, we had the red flag, and that was the end of that. So they'll be hoping, I'm sure, the teams, that we get this track properly cleared in the next couple of minutes, and then they can get on with the race simulations. Meanwhile, Ted Kravitz is free to wander and roam wherever he chooses.
This gives us a great opportunity. Should we have a look at how the fastest car in Zandvoort is hoping they got a bit faster? So there are 3 upgrades on the McLaren this weekend. They've got a new brake scoop. Now they call it the front corner. It's to actually maximize brake cooling here at Monza. It is kind of circuit specific, but they can use it at other circuits to maximize the brake cooling, but trade off as little aerodynamic losses as possible. The second change is to the front flap. That's also circuit specific to give as low a drag front flap as possible. But there's a change to the side pod as well. There's a F1 TV cameraman just in the way there, but you can see the kind of thing that I mean. It's particularly, actually, we can see with the downwash, the slope, Crofty, to the rear suspension, and that's been accentuated. It's really all about adding downforce at the rear. That's what this new side pod, McLaren say the intention is behind that particular upgrade. So yeah, nice work. The 3 upgrades down here at McLaren. Something I did notice watching on the TV from Zandvoort is the Kindle, basically. The 2 Kindles, Amazon Kindles, there are other electronic reading devices available, that Oscar and Lando have either side of them. It's the changeable logo
yes.
device. It's a gift for the sponsors. They can rotate the sponsors' logos either side. But it did strike me while you're on board with Lando or Oscar and just watching it change, it's just like a couple of Kindles they put in there.
I had a few people get in touch via the social media to ask about that, actually, because while we were on board it did change. But that's nothing new. They've been doing that most of the season, haven't they?
I know, but it is eye-catching, and the way it changes is just like when you change pages on your electronic reading device. So I think I've said the brand word enough.
Oh, Ted, I've got this. I like a book.
You like a thing, you like a book. Look, now we can see it. Now, Oscar, now the covers have come off, and we can see the electronic reading device, which rotates. Oh, here we go. Which rotates the sponsors' logos on the side of the. There you go, just changed on the side of the McLaren. Very nice.
Love it. Thank you, Ted. Session will resume in a minute and a half. So that's why the cars are all going to the end of the pit lane, and that looked like an Alpine getting in the way of one of the McLarens. And I think it was Lando Norris who got a little bit hampered there, and it was Esteban Ocon who made his way out of the garage. And I dare say that might get noted by race control, because Lando had to stop pretty sharpish.
Yeah, again, in practice they take a slightly more lenient view on these things, don't they?
They do, but just to say, and by the way, in the race director's event notes, it does say here in Monza for the rest of the weekend that if we get a red flag and the session gets stopped, nobody's allowed to come out of the pits and wait at the end of the pit lane until race control give an OK to go. And in Zandvoort, I think we actually had a situation where we didn't get a definitive restart time, and drivers were already coming out to queue at the end of the pit lane. So that might have been tightened up a bit by race control after Zandvoort. Well, whether it makes any difference to the way the weekends run, I don't know. But you know what it's like here, Kareem. You want to get out, get yourself some good track position if you can.
Yeah, I think a lot of these guys now, as you said, they are switching to the race prep, aren't they? See medium tyres on Piastri's car. I think the Red Bull at the front of the queue was still on soft. So I wonder, because actually Perez hasn't done the quali sim either, has he?
No, that's true, because he was in the garage for a little bit longer. So there is Perez coming out on the soft tyre. Max might have got 7/8 of a lap in, or 3/4 of a lap in, but Perez hasn't on the soft compound tyre. George Russell, has he come out on the mediums? He has. So Mercedes deciding that they don't want to go with a qualifying simulation for this afternoon's session. They'll wait until tomorrow instead. George Russell, because he wants some nice clean air in front of him, does not want to be tucked up behind Sergio Perez, who's taking a little more care and attention on his tyres on the outlap, because he's going to need them for some performance life as we go around the 3.5 mile of Monza track in a few moments' time.
Yeah, I wonder how this is going to play out, actually, because if Perez is going to do a quali sim and Russell is on a race run, there's probably a 5-second difference in lap time between them. So what does Perez do? Does he stick around and try and get a distant tow from Russell? He's now let Piastri past him as well. I'm assuming that Perez is doing this quali run. He may not be. Maybe he's abandoned the plan as well.
But he's not going to do a race run because he's on the soft tyres. So you would think so, wouldn't you?
Unless they want to see if the soft tyre can do the first stint. But they...
In a one-stop race?
No. I know.
These are the conversations that are had inside the engineers in the engineers' offices. Normally at Monza they do, we're not going to use a soft tyre during the race. Russell's on his race run then. Perez is now starting a lap, which is perhaps the one that we want to be focusing on here, to be honest, because Russell on a race simulation and Perez going for it on the soft tyre a little bit faster. We'll see. As there you go, Russell through the first sector, 9/10 down on this lap. Everyone is out on the track except Kevin Magnussen, who is out of this session after his crash. Perez through the first sector with a 26.8, which is 4/10 down on the best first sector time we've had.
Yeah, Ocon's on a lap as well. So those are the two we really want to be watching, because here we go in the box and the corners. Perez. He's got Bottas ahead of him, so he'll pick up a bit of a slipstream up to Ascari. Problem running on a sink is actually these other cars on the straights are not going that differently, but it's down the... If you catch him in the corner, you could get into trouble and lose out. But Bottas got nicely out of the way, so Perez has done a middle sector. Not a particularly good one.
See, he's got really hot again. Bottom of the seat.
Okay, copy.
Yeah, which will kind of putting a bit of pressure on. Every time you touch the brakes, I would have thought there. Russell with his race simulation 1:25.5. Perez picking up slipstreams once again, only 14th fastest. It was a bit of a hospital pass that for Sergio Perez to put in anything that would have been meaningful in the top 6 given the slow pace of the cars around him. Right. Everyone but Bottas and Magnussen out on the track. So Martin Brundle, trackside. Let's go and get your impressions at the Ascari chicane.
I am indeed, yes. It's an area the drivers have complained about, that they weren't consulted before it was changed. A wonderful chicane. You turn up well over 200 miles an hour. It's a left, a long right, and then a left through the exit. Minimum speed there, 145 miles an hour, around 230 kilometers per hour. So what they've done is they've taken away the bumps on the way in, as you see the Williams turn up there. And the curve on the left-hand side on the way in has always been like a scary north face of the Eiger type curve that you could climb over, but you had to prepare your car for it. Well, that's gone. And then what we used to have are two really high curves through the middle where you see the Sauber now, and you had to thread the eye of a needle, and the truly great drivers could keep it pinned and were accurate enough to stay between those two rather nasty curves. And then the exit was just really bumpy and a little bit scary. They've smoothed that out, but what we're seeing now is just tremendous speed through here. The cars look very well. They're carrying enough downforce as we see Max Verstappen piling on the power on his medium compound tyres, and through the exit you see the cars hitting the ground a lot on the way in, on the way out, and I suspect that's what's getting to the Mercedes drivers, is the friction rubbing on the floor, the skid blocks rubbing underneath them, generating some incredible heat that tends to come up through your backside, is what I'm imagining they're talking about. Both Aston Martin flowing through here gloriously, kicking up a little bit of dust here and there. The track to me looks like it's cleaning up nicely, but it's no longer threading the eye of a needle, but they're certainly pouring the power on the way through this corner. So looks good, but I can understand why the drivers feel a little bit cheated that one of the original, it's a bit too sanitized, one of the original challengers has gone. The original challenge none of them will know about was in the middle of this gravel trap. It used to be a massive tree with a barrier around it. Now that was a proper challenge on the way in there, but back to you, Crofty.
Yeah, I remember it well. Thank you, Martin. Very good indeed. What would you prefer? More power or more threading through the eye of the needle?
The latter. I agree, Martin. There used to be like this little drain on the inside of that curve, and if you could use a little bit to help rotate the car, but if you went just a few millimeters too far, you'd have the snap of oversteer. So that was such a great challenge at Ascari.
That's Ricciardo on a soft tyre race run. So someone's trying it somewhere. Our friend Laura Mekis is the one that's put that into operation. I wonder if that suggests that they might need a couple of pit stops at RB with Ricciardo running the old spec car this weekend. Winner, of course, here in Italy in 2021. His last win in Formula One, his last of the 8 that he has on the board. 11 minutes to go then in this session, and a tenth of a second, tenth and a half separating the top 5. Beautifully close, but it's now coming to well, it's race simulations, managing the tyres and getting the amount of laps that they need for what should be a one-stop race. Why is it always a one-stop race here?
Because the pit lane is the loss of time in the pit lane is so high compared to the track. Mainly because the speed they're doing down the straight on track versus in the pit lane is such a big delta. You just can't afford to lose 23, 24 seconds in race time. Point A, point B is pretty hard to overtake. So even if you give up track position, try and get it back, isn't as easy as Spa, for example.
Thank you very much indeed, Corinne Shamrock. It's threading less through the eye of the needle. Leclerc makes his way through that Ascari chicane and powers his way down the back straight into the parabolica, which must be a glorious corner to take in a Formula One car.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So Norris has done a 25.0 last time round. I can see that Lewis Hamilton is also, Piastri also 25.0, Leclerc 25.0, Verstappen 25.0. So they're all lapping.
Yeah.
Sainz 24.9. They're all lapping within a tenth of each other, aren't they?
They are. Norris consistently on the 125.0s as well. Stroll's last lap, 125.8. Alonso's last lap, a 125.8. 8 tenths of a second a lap. If that was drawn out during the course of a race, 53 laps, 8 tenths of a second, you can see the deficit that Aston Martin might find themselves in a little bit there, as Russell puts in a 124.2. Yeah,
Russell's on a completely different plan, I think. And you look at his straight line speed, he's done 330 across the line. In contrast, Verstappen is at 312, so it's like they've got a diesel engine map in that Red Bull. Unless Russell Russell was right behind Albon, so maybe he got a massive slipstream there, you can see on our screen. So that speed might have come from from the slipstream.
Current pace then on the medium tyres, Piastri ahead of Norris by a couple of tenths. Sainz ahead of Leclerc by a tenth. Then Verstappen, or Sainz ahead of Leclerc and Verstappen. Hamilton a second off the pace of Oscar Piastri. You know, that's tantamount to they're doing completely different things with the engine there.
Yeah, I think so. I think it could be.
I can't believe Mercedes would be a second off the pace, even to a McLaren.
Well, no, he's the top of times, isn't he?
Yeah.
On the quality run, so I don't think that's true. Look at this. So Albon, I think this is something we're going to see in the race, isn't it? The Williams, yet again, very quick in a straight line. And Russell can't get past him. He's sort of stuck there behind Albon. It's more frustrating in pre-practice because in the race, Russell could use DRS and Albon wouldn't have it.
Come on then, George. Let's get an overtake done then. Down the main straight, and Alex Albon moves out of his way. Actually, is not going to impede his friend any longer. But you're right, Alex Albon does rather like it here, appendicitis or not.
Yeah.
You know, came back last year, qualified 6th, finished 8th, which was a fine performance. And if repeated, would give Williams their best finish of the season so far.
So yeah, last time round, Verstappen 24-7, Piastri 24-8. So again, you know, I think it's a bit closer on the race. But I still think McLaren are in better shape than other people.
Yeah.
It feels like the times are coming more with less effort, shall we say.
What we've seen from McLaren, I think, since Imola, is towards the latter stages of a stint, the benefits of the way that they're a bit kinder on their tyres comes to their drivers. Just watch what happened to Joe Guanyu going straight on at turn 1, and that's one of those bollards in there, the polystyrene bollards, to slow the driver down and make sure they get no advantage by going straight on. And we saw it at Zandvoort, didn't we, with Lando Norris, that whilst it might have looked in the early stages that Max Verstappen was pretty comfortable, Norris just hung on in there, looked after his tyres, kept it consistent, and then when he saw signs of the Red Bull starting to struggle, knew that was his moment to pounce. And that's a really handy weapon when you're racing at the moment against the Red Bull, to know that your tyres will last you a little bit longer.
Yeah. Ted, what have you got for us?
Hello, Corinne. I'm interested. You mentioned RB, or to the team formerly known as Toro Rosso and AlphaTauri, and I'm interested to see how this split between Ricciardo, who over one lap has a faster time than Tsunoda at the moment, works out for the rest of the weekend. As you've already said, Crofty, it's Tsunoda who's got the upgrades, or all of them, while Ricciardo has not. But as we also know, Daniel Ricciardo is somewhat of a specialist around Monza, so we'll see how that works later. I don't know how they're doing on the long run, but something I did find interesting about Yuki Tsunoda is that he's, for the first time this weekend, working with a new engineer. That familiar voice is no more, and it's Enrico. His surname is to be filled out, who is actually his new engineer. His previous engineer.
Good research,
He's so good at he just says
Enrico or Ricky. I've got it written down somewhere, but I can't find it at the moment in my notebook. I haven't lost it. It's just down here somewhere. I just can't find the page that I wrote it down. But yeah, so Yuki's usual engineer has been promoted, I believe, to head of engineering, and so he's working this weekend with a new engineer. And how, Karun, can those things sometimes affect a driver? You tell us.
Matthias Spinney, his usual race engineer. How does it affect a driver, Karun?
It's a question of whether they work together in another role. You know, think of when Brian Pozzi stepped up for Charles Leclerc. They went out one, didn't they, first time out in Monte Carlo. So it's, you know, do they know? I think if Enrico, TBD surname, has worked on the Yuki Tsunoda side of the garage as a performance engineer or something, then they already have a relationship. If he hasn't, then that's a different story, because you really have to build a good relationship and know each other's sort of body language and just the terminology you would use also for making changes to the car and things like that.
Sergio Perez is facing a similar issue. Hugh Bird is taking a couple of races away as a paternity leave, I think, for Hugh, as Max Verstappen locked up there at the second chicane. But Woody's coming in to replace Hugh, and Woody was Sergio's performance engineer. So he's somebody that he's worked with really closely, and whilst it's a new job as race engineer, at least that relationship with the driver has been established in the past.
Yeah, exactly. So he's suddenly having a big lock-up at that chicane. I'm not sure, but Max Verstappen, I hear, is complaining on the radio about the front left tyre. The team telling him that other people are struggling with the same. So you do get that around the circuit, especially on a Friday when the track's a bit green. You get the graining on the front left tyre, and that is a tyre that takes the load through the Lesmos and the Parabolica as well. So yeah, not unusual here on a Friday. You will get traction limitation out of the chicanes, certainly on the slow speed corners, and then you struggle with the front tyre on these longer radius corners around here.
And he's been noted, Max Verstappen, for failing to follow the race director's instructions. So when he went down the escape road, I'm assuming he didn't go to the right of the bollard at the end to come back out again.
So Hamilton, Crofty, as Russell, by the way, has done his qualifying simulation out of sync and pops up P6 on a 21.0. And so he's gone, what is that, 3.5 tenths behind Hamilton's time on a track that will be in a much better condition, but he's in amongst other people out of sync. So anyway, Russell at least has got some sort of reference on the soft tyre before the end of the session. But yeah, the last time round, Hamilton 24.5, so he is in contention in terms of race pace.
Ted Kravitz,
Hello.
I have news for you.
Crofty, I think I have the same news. if we're talking Toro Rosso engineers. Sorry, RB engineers. Sorry, RB engineers. Well, I called Kimi Antonelli Kimi Räikkönen earlier on, so clearly in the late 1990s, early 2000s.
You spent 3 weeks in Suffolk and you got back in time, Ted Kravitz. Do you want to do the parish notices?
Well, just it's Ernie. It's Ernie who is Ernie, not Enrico. Although you can understand how I can get the names muddled up. It's Ernesto Desiderio, who is the new engineer of Yuki Tsunoda, otherwise known as Ernie. And yes,
will be from now on.
Ernie drove the fastest. What was it?
RB in the West.
That's it. Fastest RB in the West. So yeah, I'm looking at the engineering question at the moment, taking a rather more serious approach to free practice too, as we should be doing. But do you know what? Talking of RBs, I might go saunter back down towards Red Bull and get some kind of clue, if we can, as to when we're going to see some more sort of soft tyre running pace, and get a clue, because I mean, from free practice 1, this is not your sort of summation, but really Max is in the pound seats for this weekend.
Yeah, but he had to abort his soft tyre.
I know that. Sure, I know that. But race pace, I'm sure is very good. But
I think the race pace is absolutely fine.
Yeah, he's done 3 laps in the 24.7s there for having a bit of a slow on the maybe traffic. But with 43 seconds to go, I don't think we're going to see another.
I mean, the answer is tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can answer that without saying
tomorrow morning. No, I know that's when we're going to see it, but are we going to see it before qualifying? Surely we will, and I'm looking forward to getting the results.
I've missed you so much.
He's answered the question himself and saved himself a walk.
I've missed him so much. So did his mate Ricky and Ernie as well. I wouldn't mind, but Ted Kravitz is about to embark next week on one of the journeys of his life. I'm not going to say any more than that, but he is about to do something pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
I hope he gets people's names right when he does it.
Lando Norris looks like he's got some flat spots on those tyres. Has he had a spin time?
He's not had a spin. He might have locked up a little bit, but he's definitely not had a spin. His last lap, Lando Norris, was he slowed down, sadly, to be honest, to take the checkered flag. Leclerc carried on with a 1:26.1 by the end of it. Colin Pinto was a 1:25.9 as he crossed the line. Look at Lewis Hamilton, who has also been noted for failing to follow the race director's instructions. There is a runoff area to the right that you are obliged to come back on at, and Lewis and Max didn't.
If you bail out of it so late, it seems counterintuitive to try and steer to the right and get into that lane. You will spin.
Yeah, well, no, you could have gone straight on, and I disagree with you on that.
How could you have to go around the curve?
He didn't have to go really any to the right, just carry on straight and not go too left. He could have got on, I think, as Max could, to get just to rejoin right at the end and come on.
Oh, you're saying not necessarily go around the curb, just join the track where the lines are.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, that he could have done, you're right.
And I think that would have satisfied race control on that. Not that I'm expecting it to be a big issue. It's practice, and I don't think it will be. Verstappen a 1:26.7 for his last lap. The last lap for George Russell was a 1:26.2. There were still a few in the 1:25s, but I'm just... Snowden was a 1:26.6, but there were some that had gone and changed onto the soft compound tyres as well. We'll crunch the numbers overnight and report back tomorrow. But Lewis Hamilton
is so hot.
Yeah, copy that. We'll have a good look around it this evening.
In a flame-proof cushion to sit on.
Remember, back in the day, when drivers had this issue, they'd come to a pit stop and somebody would throw a bucket of ice water over them or something like that. Like, you know, Nigel Mansell, I remember famously in Dallas or something. Just they had to throw some cold ice water on just to cool it down in the pit stop. So, yeah, drivers calling back, having done their practice starts. I think what we can conclude is that we have got three teams in the fight for pole. So Ferrari, despite playing down their own expectations yesterday, Leclerc very adamant that they weren't a contender. We'd have to say, based on current evidence, that the Tifosi have a good chance of a decent result to watch.
Charles Leclerc yesterday were in a difficult moment with a lack of pace for the team, but we should be in a better position with a lower downforce this weekend. We've got a few upgrades and we should be back to where we were in Spa. And if you remember, all the way back to the Belgian Grand Prix, Charles Leclerc was on pole and he finished on the podium. That was his thoughts yesterday.
Yeah. Just on the race plans, I mean, Hamilton definitely in contention. We saw the graphic come up earlier showing him a bit off, but his last three laps were all in the 24s, which other people
Thanks for putting my car between the sessions, guys. My seat is still exceptionally hot, for whatever reason.
Yeah, understood.
And we will go down to Mercedes and we'll try and find out whether they've got any clues once the cars come back in as to why they've been hot all day. Lewis Hamilton this morning and both Lewis and George this afternoon for him.
A couple of millionaires in the hot seat.
See what you've done there. Very good. Let's have a look at the starts whilst we're on board with George Russell, shall we?
It's in neutral. You can see he's waiting for the cars ahead to clear off. There he goes. Gets first gear listening. That's a decent launch. I mean, it is such a long run, nearly half a kilometre to the first corner, and that launch is going to be super important when we get to Sunday.
So, for today, Max Verstappen fastest in FP1, Lewis Hamilton fastest in FP2. Lewis Hamilton with 5 pole positions here in 7 pole positions here in the past. Lando Norris, 0.003 of a second behind him. Carlos Sainz, Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc, just about 1/10 of a second back. The top 5 separated by 1/10.5. Not bad. George Russell ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. Daniel Ricciardo ahead of Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll, also in the top 10. We didn't get a soft tyre full lap from Max Verstappen. Sergio Perez came out when others were on race runs for his qualifying simulation. Pierre Gasly was another that didn't do his best time on the soft tyre. Kevin Magnussen ended up in the barriers at the second at Lesmo, and it was less than 1.5 seconds from top to bottom. That's your running today on a very hot day here in Monza.